This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
A lot of people think that I did one or two things to make this grow into what it is, but it's been thousands of small decisions across 13 years that have steered us in the right direction.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
So I got Kyle Loftis here, the founder, the sole owner, president, and generally the man behind 1320 Video. Kyle, how's it going, brother?
Good. Finally got a sunny day in Omaha.
Right on. So tell us a little bit about 1320 Video, kind of how it all started and who you are.
Sure, of course. I started 1320 Video kind of without knowing it about 12, 13 years ago, 2003. I was a huge audio nut back then doing stereo competitions, and it kind of morphed. The natural progression, it seems, a lot of my friends that did that was into fast cars. And when I went to those stereo competitions, for some reason I liked taking photos and videos. It was kind of a natural draw to it, and that morphed into selling pictures from the last events, videos in the last events on CDs to fund my trips to go to the next one. And then I got into the race car stuff, and just kind of blew up from there. It was just a casual thing that I did to share with my friends, and
kind of grew into this, huh?
Yeah, it just exploded. It's kind of been a slow growth. It was for the first 10 years or so, but about 3 years ago, it just blew up with the growth of social media. It was really just a way for me to collect all the things I liked and share them with a larger audience. I stumbled across message boards early on. The local Omaha, Nebraska message board was called Omaha Racing when I was in college, and I actually found it like an hour after this guy created it for his local car club, and he just wanted to have it for him and his 10 friends that were in a car club. And I was like, nah, I think we should turn it into something for the city. And so I sprinkled like little pieces of paper all over the modified cars on campus, and we had like 200 members in the first week. And then that was my addiction with car forums and learning where all the cool cars were at and sharing my photos up to a bigger audience.
Right. So when you first got started, you didn't look at it like, okay, I'm going to start 1320 Video. This is what we're going to do.
Oh, no.
It grew into something just over time, kind of from hobby to what it is now. And now you're doing it full time?
Yeah, 1320 Video has been my hobby all the way up till January of this year. So about 12 or 13 years of a hobby job, I guess.
Wow.
I didn't make my first dollar until probably 2006 or 5, probably 3 years into it. Started selling it, well, other than the little event CDs at audio competitions, but I made my first DVD in, I think, 2006. My friend that was working at the local stereo shop with me kept pressuring me into making a DVD, and I had no idea what DVD production meant, how to do it. And it just so happened one of my friends from high school who owned a adult website, or actually several adult websites down in Florida, he helped me author my first 2 DVDs. Kind of a strange tie-in. I didn't know who to talk to, and he reached out to me and he was asking if I'd ever thought about doing DVDs as well. So it kind of pushed me into it.
Yeah.
But the whole hobby job was an interesting concept. I graduated college right around when I started doing a lot more filming in 2005, and so I began my career at PayPal and started taking the 1320 thing more seriously right around the same time, and they kind of grew together. And my business degree, or my management information degree, was a perfect tie-in to like the technical side of how to piece things together. And working at PayPal, I helped businesses grow at the same time, starting with businesses my size back then and growing into the last 4 or 5 years, I was working with the largest customer merchants at PayPal, like the enterprise level. So helping them with best practices also helped me with fine-tuning how I did things. It was a good learning experience.
Yeah, so I'd like to go back about college. Like when you were in college, what were you studying and what was the goal at that point? Like, did you have a career in mind or were you just trying to figure it out? And then when you were at PayPal, what were you doing there? What was your role? And did that have tie-in to what you're doing now?
I had absolutely no idea what I was doing when I graduated from high school, like a lot of people. I knew I liked computers. I enjoyed the geeky classes in high school. So I started looking into degrees like that, and I hated math. I hated the real hardcore programming, so I went into management information systems, which is like a software engineering, piecing systems together combined with business rather than sitting at a computer and coding all day. And so I, after 4.5 years of being in college and studying there, I graduated and I looked around me and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I went to a counselor and I was like, all right, where do I go from here? She said, well, here's a list of jobs you qualify, and none of them sounded interesting to me. But a year prior to graduating, I had applied at PayPal just for a college job doing customer service. And for some reason, they picked my application out from a year prior and thought I was qualified for this e-commerce integration specialist position. And it was really interesting because that was like a perfect fit for me. And it wasn't super techy, but it was like a business consulting tech. Here's how you take payments online. So it was a perfect fit for me. And
so you'd find other businesses that were taking payments or weren't taking payments online and show them how to do it and how PayPal could help?
Back when I joined PayPal, it was the big growth for them, and businesses were begging PayPal for help with setting up payments on their website because they knew that there were consumers out there that wanted to take PayPal. They just didn't know how to set it up. So they'd call into the sales team. The sales team helped them set up their account, and then they'd hand it off to me and help them either put buttons on their website or add PayPal to their shopping cart or do like a full custom integration into like a WordPress or full custom website, whatever they had built.
Right.
So I was the business tech guy.
So you actually are using your degree and what you learned kind of in college. In what you're doing now for sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Okay. How long did you work at PayPal for?
9.5 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I couldn't quite push out that last year. I knew that 2015 was going to be a huge year, and I needed to be prepared for our first day on the job, which was TX2K down in Houston. So I spent about 3 or 4 months preparing for that, making sure that we had everything sorted out. So
that I want to know about. You spent 3 or 4 months preparing for Texas 2K15?
Yeah, it wasn't just that event. It was the setting up the platform of how we operate for the rest of the year. So,
can you elaborate?
Yeah, up until then, we were working kind of on a skeleton crew. I was going to do as many events as I could, balancing that with work. And so,
how many events were you doing a year, just on average? Just trying to get an idea.
Like larger events, we were doing 15 to 20, and we probably double the amount of events we go to every year. A lot of them are just casual events, but they're starting to get more into larger national events. And this year we're kind of focusing on fine-tuning where we go, what we film. And, I just choose the events that I like because I know that I built my audience around what I like. That's all I post. So, if I don't like it, I know that's not the right event to go to. So we've got ties with event partners we've gone to in the past that I had a general rough layout of our event calendar and knew what it was going to take. But there's really, once race season kicks off, there's no spare time. So if I didn't have it prepared by the beginning of March, it just wasn't going to happen. So the 3 days before we left for TX2K, I moved into a house where I could actually store everything that I have, because I operate my business out of my house basically, which has room for my truck, trailer, cars. I took delivery of my new trailer for our merchandising the new truck, a whole bunch of inventory, probably 3,000 shirts and 2,000 stickers and hundreds of hats, and just kind of building the structure of what we needed for the rest of the year. All of our merchandising displays, getting all new camera equipment that we needed, and training people to be ready to do everything right.
Yeah. So talk to me about merchandising displays and, the people to run it. So if you're at every event, are you personally driving the truck and trailer there, setting up the truck and trailer, or how does it work?
That's a good question. And everyone that works with me knows pretty well that I'm sitting in the passenger seat running the business while we're driving down to the shows. I've got some really solid guys that are always willing to jump in and help me with whatever I need. And I've got a few people that help drive. One particular, Fred, who's probably driven to 3/4 of the events so far.
Shout out to Fred.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sitting there, keeping the website running, social media posts, editing videos, reviewing videos with my editor, getting things out, because I've kind of perfected the multitasking and efficient working, trying to keep everything running, because there's just so many different outlets to what we do.
So going back to the platform thing, I got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
You said that you plan out like every event for the whole year, but a lot of events haven't been set as far as their date.
Yeah.
Do you run into that,
Oh,
or all the events that you're going to scheduled a year in advance?
Oh, no. They kind of trickle in, and we probably had half the events on the calendar by March. Another quarter of them have been scheduled since then, and I don't know if I'm able to handle the rest of them, because being out of town every weekend for the entire year isn't too realistic. It's nice to have a break every once in a while. But we've
For sure.
Somewhere around 20, 22 events on the calendar right now, some of them overlapping where I've got a separate crew that goes out. But we're always in flux. And one of our biggest events of the year, Texas Invitational, was actually rescheduled from mid-April to next weekend. And so that was an interesting scramble. Luckily, it landed on a weekend where we could move some things around.
Yeah. A second ago, you said that you have a video editor as well.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of jumping all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
But you're dealing with, you got your friends and these guys that are your go-tos for helping run the merchandising and travel to events and stuff.
Yep.
You shoot video yourself. Do you also shoot photography? And then you have someone else edit or at least help you with editing videos?
Yep. Also kind of taking a leap back in time from when I started doing the photos and video. First 2 years I was just using a still photo point-and-shoot camera and doing, switching back and forth from photo to video.
On the same camera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once I started getting into the racing stuff and sharing that with the locals, they realized that I was the guy that loved to go out and get everything. And so we actually had a car wash to raise funds. We split the proceeds half and half to a local charity, half to purchase a camera, so I could actually have a legitimate video camera to shoot with. So at that point, I was shooting video on my right hand and photos on my left hand. I would just butt them up together, and they'd be pointed at the same thing. And if you see me shooting at the track or in the pits, you'll see me doing that still today with my cell phone for live uploads to Facebook. But
okay. So you'll shoot with your phone so you can put it up live.
Yep, you got it. If you ever see the camera fumble in a shot, it's usually because my left hand slipped and I can't see the camera. So sometimes you'll see the cell phone pop out in front of the lens. But I shot photo and video by myself. I was just kind of the kid that showed up at the events that was running around taking pictures and video of everybody. And nobody really knew why. Some of them never even saw the final product because back then not a lot of drag racers were online, especially the older crowd. And so I was just that weird kid that was running through the pits, documenting everything. And then probably 2006, I had this revelation that if I brought a friend with me, then I'd have someone to travel with. They could shoot photos and I could concentrate on video. and that was an instant spike in quality that went up when I was just focusing on video. So that's when the crew kind of started. I had one friend that shot with me for about a year and a half, and then I had another guy that kind of took his spot, and now it's grown into a group of 20-some friends that I pull from. I've got 4 or 5 video guys, 4 or 5 photographers, and about 10 to 12 people that can help with merchandising and or media stuff.
Yeah.
I've also got my editor who's been full-time with me for about 3 years. He's also been full-time in school up until actually graduates tomorrow. So we're both
nice.
excited for that. And he's been amazing. And then I've also got a social media marketing person that helps me with my social media, Instagram, Facebook, my websites, because I just can't maintain the quality with all the events going on when we're filming.
Now, do they help you with editing or marketing strategy as well? Like, is it just content creation, or do they help you kind of idealize the master plan? Or like what to post, what not to post?
Well, I've got my video editor, Jacob, who does all the editing, and he's got all of my friends that help me are car guys. They're part of the culture. They have been. They were before they met me. That's how I usually met them. I don't know a whole lot of people outside the car culture, to be honest. And so they don't directly help me with strategy and planning, but I value their opinions and what they tell me what they like, and it's no brainer to listen to them, and they help guide me.
So they get it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
I think you guys are all.
I pick my friends carefully, and it's all centered around that core positive love for cars, street cars, and just doing crazy things, having fun.
For sure. It's cool to see you take it from, just a place of habit, and then you quit your PayPal job just in January of this year, so just 4 months ago, and took this thing full time.
Yeah, I was. It was an interesting.
How was that?
Yeah. I knew I could do it. It wasn't scary at all. Other than leaving another passion of mine, I had a very strong passion for what I did at PayPal, and so it was tough to leave that. But the people there were amazing. The team that we had built there was another group of passionate people about what we did, and we were one of the trying to think of the word for it. We were one of the most energetic teams, just very high performing, high energy teams in the company. And so it was just, it was hard to leave that, especially when I consider it to be one of the best jobs at PayPal and at eBay, because eBay owns PayPal. But I knew that I couldn't do both the way I wanted to. There just simply wasn't enough time. I couldn't do it last year, all of 2014. I always felt guilty about neglecting my day job or neglecting 1320 video. So it was a consistent balance of jumping back and forth. Yeah. Luckily, I had a flexible job where I was working from home or on the road. I would be on conference calls, and that's why I'm on. And that was why I was in the passenger seat last year, is I would literally be on conference calls in the car for PayPal on our way down to TX2K or on the way to Texas Invitational or Streetcar Takeover, King of the Streets. We'd be driving there on Fridays. I'd work for 6 to 10 hours on the road, and then on Monday, as we're posting some of the stuff that we shot, I'd also be on conference calls on the way back. So I didn't have to take a day off a lot of the trips, so I could save my PTO for like TX2K when we're gone for a week, or Drag Week where we're gone for 9 days. It was a perfect situation, but when you're working, 60 to 80 hours a week, it
wears on you.
Yeah. And you just can't maintain the quality, so I had to make that decision. Especially when preparing for this year, there just wasn't any possible way.
Right. So it was kind of creeping up on you for a while, and then.
Yep. Even now, like the day I left PayPal, I instantly filled up my spare time. I told someone yesterday I should wear a GoPro on my head, because it's through someone else's eyes, seeing what I do every day is probably pretty crazy. Just maintaining the 18 different things we're working on at once and trying to trying to have a life as well.
Yeah. Can you take us through what a hectic day looks like, or maybe preparation for an event, something like that?
Yeah. With events nearly every weekend, sometime in the middle of the week, usually the day before, we're preparing. The merchandise trailer is a big time suck. I've got a friend who helps me locally. She organizes all of our merchandise because we literally have thousands of shirts that sitting here. That every time I come out with a new design, people just want more. They just keep buying it up. So we keep making it. So we've got like 6 or 7 shirt designs and 8 different sizes of each. So my garage was instantly filled with it became my warehouse on one side of it. So we fill up our merchandise racks. We make sure we have all of our like tent materials and cameras ready. It takes a good, I call it a reset. So when we come back from an event, we've got hours of footage. I'm actually in the middle of that today, dumping from between 4 and 6 cameras, handheld cameras, and up to 12 GoPros onto our hard drive so that my editor can help me with editing all of that. And so once the cameras are dumped and cleared and charged, I put them all in all the bags, load up the trailer. The guys show up the morning we leave, put all their luggage in there, throw all the cameras in the car, and then we head to the event. And from there, I just kind of cut ties with home and start doing race car things with my friends. And so we get there, and the life of a 1320 video film crew person is pretty hectic. I just made a post last night on Facebook because I don't think people really understand what my crew goes through on these events. We have a blast doing it. If we didn't, we wouldn't be doing it because the work is just crazy. From driving there for 14 hours, checking into the hotel at 2 in the morning, waking up at 8 to go to the track, and then getting down the track around 6 to 10 p.m., then we maybe grab dinner, or maybe we go straight to a parking lot to hang out and see what's going on in the streets. And then we get to sleep about 2 to 6 in the morning, and we repeat that. The back of our shirts weren't a mistake. It says it's the Eat Sleep 1320 video, but it has a line through eat and sleep because we don't do a whole lot of that.
And got time for eating or sleeping.
So then on an average of 2 to 4 hours of sleep a night, after working a few days, we drive back home for however many hours and unload the trailer and start that process all over again.
How many hours a week do you work? When you wake up, are you instantly on your phone checking out what's going on?
Yeah.
And I mean, your work is your life pretty much?
If I looked at how many hours I was awake, that would be how many hours I work a week.
Attaboy.
There's not too many breaks. Some of my friends hate me for that, but it doesn't feel like work most of the time.
Yeah. For every event, how much time is spent on a reset, editing videos, and how many people are involved?
Yeah. So between keeping up with social media, keeping up with our partners, over a couple of days I get the media dumped, and hopefully in an organized fashion so I don't delete anything. I haven't had that happen too often. But it takes a couple of days to dump the footage, organize it, and then I hand it off to, I've got one main editor, Jacob, who I mentioned earlier, and then my friend Kyle, Kyle S., who's been shooting with me for 3 or 4 years, I've challenged him with taking on a mini-me position. So we're working on that, getting into editing and shooting and managing a team, because that's what I've been doing since day one. Up until Jacob jumped in to do editing, I was doing it all: photo editing, uploading, social media, and it's just grown so big that I can't. So I hand it off to those guys. When they go through the edit process, they'll disappear for 4 to 6 hours and edit up their first draft, throw it up private on YouTube so I can watch it. And as I said, I'm working all the time. There's so many different things going on. So I know they hate me for it, but sometimes there's a day or two in between when they get their first draft up and when I can actually watch it. So I'll be sitting in a restaurant with my earphones in, sitting with friends, watching a video, writing down, like this weekend we were in Orlando, heading to the beach, stopped for lunch, and I was writing out edits for the first draft on a napkin to take a picture to send it to my editor, so he didn't have to wait till the next day.
Nice.
You gotta find those spare few minutes so you can get that kind of stuff done. So they'll make that second edit, and the idea is that second one that goes up is the one to publish. So they'll make a thumbnail, I'll make a few tweaks. They'll put, make a title, description, tags, and I'll tweak that as well. It's still my baby, so I probably control it a little too much, but I keep the quality close to me and what we put out and the kind of reputation that we have. So it's a pretty long process for each video. Some people might think a 3.5 minute video takes an hour to edit, but it's more like 6 to 8 hours.
Wow.
It just depends on the video.
Yeah. So was there one moment that you can point to as being like a big break or an aha moment for you?
I would say that there's two. And they're both circled around the social media craze that's been happening for the past few years. So in 2012, right around our prep time for our TX2K event, Facebook, I'd always been a huge social media fiend. I was always attached to my computer on message boards, for the first 6 or 7 years of what I did. And then MySpace was kind of cool to me. And then when Facebook happened, the way it worked, what just really clicked with me, being able to share the content that I shot with all my friends. So back in 2012, I had like 2,500 friends, and about 10 of them weren't car people. So I would share all my photos and video on my personal page. And then I realized that as I gained other friends that weren't big car friends, or my car friends that hated seeing all this stuff constantly, I found the whole pages section of Facebook.
Yeah. And
decided to split my personal life from my business life for the most part, and put the core content up on that page to see what happened. That way I wasn't annoying everybody with my frequent posts, because I would post 6 or 7 times a day, and some people enjoy it, some people don't. So I created the 1320 video Facebook page and just kind of casually used it. It wasn't really getting much traction for the first 6 months. I guess I was back in 2011. And then March, probably the first week in March 2012, Facebook added the ability to access your fan page and upload a photo, which might not seem that revolutionary today because it's so frequently used, but you just couldn't do it back then. You'd have to get on your computer, text yourself or email yourself the photo and upload it. And then they added that magical button, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I can with the 2,700 people I have on Facebook, I can share TX2K with them live. And so I'd put up, 6 to 10 photos a day from TX2K. And at the end of the week, I had 9,000 fans. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. Just tripled my fan base in a week. So I started doing that a little bit more. And by the end of
that was all from Texas 2K?
Yeah. That event has such a following, and people that don't go are just in the dark. There weren't any live feeds. There weren't any solid places. Message boards. You could find some updates of casual photographers, some professional photographers posting stuff, but there wasn't really a single place to look for that. Back in 2012, YouTube was about the closest thing, and you usually had to wait for that content to come up. So I think people they're like, oh, 1320 videos got this stuff. So they just kind of flocked to it.
Yeah. And
so I continued doing that at other events the rest of the year, and slowly grew to 60 or 70,000 fans by the end of the year, which was pretty huge to me.
Hang on. So this is 2012. How many fans do you have at the beginning of the year?
2,700.
And how many fans do you have at the end of 2012?
About 70,000.
Did that blow your mind or what?
Yeah.
That's blowing my mind.
Every 5,000 fans, every 10,000 fans was a huge celebration for me, the fans, my friends that were doing it. It was huge. And so we started 2013 with a pretty big fan base, and I knew that our reach was just so much bigger. And YouTube had already had a decent following. We probably had 100 or 200,000 subscribers back then, but it didn't really equate to a lot, and it wasn't quite the same interaction that Facebook was. Facebook was something that I was just glued to for my personal account, and the ability to look at both and interact with my fans, answer questions, see what they liked was really cool. It helped me really learn what people liked and kind of fine-tune my strategy, what we end up releasing, what doesn't make the cut.
Right. How much time are you dedicating now to Facebook? Do you just post your media and then move on, or are you actively engaging with your audience? Does your audience expect you to be available on Facebook to talk with them?
No, I don't feel like they do, but I always try and make a point to monitor the comments, look for questions, look for idiots that need to either be banned or put in their place. If you ever watch my Facebook, I've got a fairly creative way of doing that. I'm not a negative person, but if someone's bashing me or my guys or one of the cars we film, I have a pretty creative way of
tell us. I want to know.
Or not of replying. But
so do I just have to go to your Facebook page to see it?
Yeah. I mean, there's not a whole lot of comments from me, especially when every post we put up has thousands of comments. But luckily, Facebook has the new most popular comments go to the top, and so I'll usually go through a few pages of that and see what I want to reply to, because I like staying in touch with the fans. And
right.
We're just car guys. If you ever meet us at events, we just love hanging out, meeting people, and we have a front row seat to the coolest car events, in my mind, the coolest car events in the world. And so that's what keeps us going. And the size that it's gotten is crazy, but it still seems like we're just going out to screw around with our friends at these events. So I like to keep that feel and try and keep it humble. And we're blessed with the ability to share our content with so many people across the world. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So you said that you had two aha moments. So the first one is when Facebook pages added the image button, so where you could share images, I guess, right from your phone.
Exactly.
What was the second aha moment?
Yeah, and I'm going into my Facebook stats as we speak to take a look at this, because it's really pretty mind blowing. So if I go back, I'm double checking what I was telling you with. So it was actually, we went from 2,700 in March of 2012 to, I was wrong, it was 45,000 at the end of 2013. And I had a goal of hitting 100,000 by the end of the year. That was what I wanted to do. So I paid real close attention to what posts worked, what posts gained likes, what posts didn't work, different ways of gaining likes while being able to promote our stuff, and started growing. Let's see, we were growing about 5,000 to 7,000 a month pretty consistently. And then the middle of the year, 2013, we were growing about 8,000 to 10,000. So we started gaining momentum. And then I remember the moment we were on, it was the middle of Drag Week, which is put on by Hot Rod Magazine. It's the ultimate streetcar torture test. And that's by far my favorite legal event that we shoot. I have to preface that, but
nice.
The other favorite event, which is not so legal, is the one we do in March, half legal, half not so legal, the TX2K event. And they're both torture tests for me and my crew and the cars. But I knew that with all the live coverage that we were going to do, and all the crazy unique, crazy fast cars and the moments on the side of the road, and seeing 2,000 horsepower pro mods hauling trailers going 1,000 miles across the U.S.
That event is ridiculous.
I know. And by the way, I just got word from Mr. Freiberger a couple days ago that we will be there this year. So that'll be awesome. But at the beginning of that event, we were at, I think, 93,000 fans. And so I knew with 7 days of crazy content that we could hit that 100,000 within a week. And that was my goal, was by the end of the event to hit 100,000. So on the last day, we're at Bowling Green, in Bowling Green, Kentucky, at the drag strip there, the most beautiful drag strip I've ever been at least. And I'm in the tower watching my Facebook likes as they're running the final rounds. I'm at 99,850, 99,890, and I'm like, okay, it's an hour away, and it just started climbing. And I didn't know what triggered it, and we hit 100,000 like right at the end of the finals. And then by the end of the day, we're at 105,000. And then the end of next week, we're at 115,000. And then a week later, we're at 130,000. And I didn't know what I did. I was like, did I break something?
Is this good?
Yeah. I was like, I think this is good. I'm not doing anything, but someone behind the curtain is. But between the end of drag week, where we were at 100,000, and the end of 2013, where I wanted to hit 100,000 fans, we were at 1.3 million fans. So
whoa, back up.
Yeah.
Beginning of the year, how many?
45,000.
And the end of the year?
1.3 million.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about that.
Yeah, exactly. And I was lost. I had no idea what happened for about 6 months. I had been like.
So but now you know, like there was a situation.
I've heard rumors. Facebook literally is like the Wizard of Oz. You can't get a hold of anybody unless you go to their office, which I haven't done. I don't think they like that. But the rumors are that they were and it was funny because I was at Hot Rod Magazine's event when this happened for Drag Week, and their page had it happen too. But there were a handful of automotive pages, and I think they've done this for other industries, but they went out and looked for pages that were closely knit into the culture of racing, automotive stuff, and they took 20 or 30 or 40 pages, and they just sprinkled fairy dust on them. They basically gave them a lot of free organic traffic.
Reach, yeah.
The Facebook mobile app was like the growth of the Facebook mobile app back then was just huge. And so they were on both sides of the coin. They're trying to find the pages that were already posting consistent, high quality content. And apparently it was a test to see if they would post more and post higher quality content while tying in the consumers on the other side of the fence into Facebook more and hooking them into the content that they liked. So, that was a crazy moment and a little bit of luck maybe, but it's from what it sounds like.
Well, I feel like you make your own luck. Like
the
reason that you got that opportunity in the first place is just because you've been grinding it out for 6 years at that point, or 8 years at that point.
Oh yes, there's probably 10, 20 other video photo guys out there that I've met that are as hardcore as I am. But we've just been in the right place at the right time for events, for promotions, for partnerships. And a lot of people think that I did one or two things to make this grow into what it is, but it's been thousands of small decisions across 13 years that have steered us in the right direction. But it's a huge point.
Yeah. Because we talk about an aha moment or like one particular event that happened that all of a sudden everything started to work. But you were grinding it out, event after event after event, working a full-time job for 10 years. So I feel like that's important for everybody to understand, is that there isn't like a wake up one morning and all of a sudden everything is just working.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just living that life. And there's been a few reality checks when I start getting outside the bounds of doing what I know I love, where I start like, maybe I should try this. It doesn't feel quite right. And you know pretty quickly that that wasn't the right thing to do, and you just jump back to what you know. Trying different events or promoting different things, and it just doesn't work out. You just have to correct quickly.
Yeah.
I'd say outside of those small decisions, the social media blow up, the partnerships, there's been a few big partnerships and a whole lot of little ones that have really made our place in the streetcar racing automotive world, whether it's event promoters, shops, race car owners and friends, people that I bring on these trips. It's just a huge combination of that, and just always looking for other opportunities to grow. There's probably 3, 4, 5 big events that we were early comers to and really helped grow them at the same time. And it's awesome to see that happen. There's shops locally here. There's shops all across the Midwest and across the world, really. You don't realize what one small Facebook post or one mention in a video can do for a shop, but I've seen shops go from one stall in their garage to 8 stalls in a shop over a matter of a few months because of some things that we've done, and it feels really rewarding.
So you had mentioned partnerships. Who is it that you're in partnership with?
Sure. So I mentioned the event promoters because they obviously bring together the cars into one location for us to go out and look for the features and the people that we like to tell the stories of. But there's also plenty of other people that help support them, and primarily the manufacturers, the shops that are out there helping these people build the cars they want, because not a lot of people can afford to build these crazy monsters. And so some of the fastest cars that we shoot are, people that build them in their garages, and they have a ton of support from their local shop, from the power adder companies, and everyone included there. One of the biggest supporters that we've worked with to date was someone I actually met at Drag Week. He's been the main sponsor, I think, since the beginning. Rick Johnson at Gear Vendors, who a lot of people don't know what Gear Vendors does, but you've got this crazy 2,000 horsepower car with an automatic transmission. Thinking about driving 1,000 miles in a week, you're considering the gas bill and how many tanks of gas you've got to have in the trunk, and he can cut that in half with his Gear Vendors units. And he met us the first year and fell in love with the kind of content and the kind of stories that we told. In 2010, he decided that he wanted to help propel us into bigger and better things by sponsoring our website and being our main sponsor. And that was before I really realized the value of partnering with shops and manufacturers. So he's been helping us for over 5 years. And we've also got a few other main sponsors that kicked off this year that have played a huge role in being able to fund our ability to go out and get better equipment, keep our website running, and share these stories with more people. ProCharger just jumped on board. We're good friends with a lot of the guys there. They're close in Kansas City to where we're at in Omaha. Nitrous Outlet down in Texas, they've been awesome. They're just trying to get out and dig into this crazy streetcar world that we love. And then Modern Automotive Performance, a little north of us here, they have a huge collection of parts that are perfect for street cars. And they used to build a lot themselves, but they really started focusing on being the sole place to go to find what you need to build that crazy monster that you want to build. And they've been all awesome in helping support us and keep this machine going.
Nice. I mean, it's pretty tough because there's a lot of expense in doing what you do.
When I get done at an event and I look at the bill, I'm like, wow, I don't know how we're going to pay for this. Well, there's a few big events that we do. There's I'm probably going to end up leaving some out, but the big ones that come to mind are TX2K, our biggest event of the year, just because it's like the Super Bowl of street cars, which is like the type, that's what we like filming. That's what we love filming. And every time I deviate from that, I don't enjoy the events as much, and the content just doesn't do as well.
Like what? Can you break that apart too? Is there?
There's an event that I love because of the people and the pure horsepower craziness that goes on. Fuel Altered Nationals in Iowa. It's held at Eddyville Raceway every September or August. And I went to that 3 or 4 years, and I really missed that event. But there's always other events that same weekend that are our core and that our guys like going to, and our audience loves. But that was one of my favorite events. But I knew that it wasn't the audience that we appealed to. You stand next to a 3,000 horsepower fuel altered, and it's launching. It's one of the craziest feelings you'll ever have next to a top fuel car. And but it's that crazy of a car that you're trailering the track, and it drives 5 miles in its entire life. Well, maybe not 5. It just didn't work out for him.
But your audience is a different. That's not what they're looking for. Like, they're not a fan of 1320 video to watch fuel altereds. They're there because of what you've done with street cars,
drag racing. Well, I mean, that is drag racing, but the car that you drive to work happens to have 1,200 horsepower to the head.
Right. That's what your fans are about.
Yeah, and that's what I'm about too.
Word.
The people at the Fuel Altered Nationals is what I really loved about the event, next to the crazy high horsepower. But the partnerships with the event promoters is huge. TX2K, Texas Invitational, King of the Streets, Streetcar Takeover, which we've become a huge partner with. Among other ones, I tried a new event, All Out Call Out, in Albuquerque last year, which we're going back to. The Shift Sector roll race events out at Pikes Peak. They do it in California too, but Pikes Peak's a lot closer to us. All of those are really tight relationships, and they get what we do and we get what they do. And I didn't really put a whole lot of thought into how we promote the events, what we shoot, what we put up until the last couple of years, and really analyzing it, working with the promoters to see what's important to them, how they want to grow the events, how the racers, which racers are important to the events. I mean, they're all important, but which ones are like the key players. Really playing it out ahead of time and working with them after the fact to portray the right picture and really tell the right story of how the races go. It just grows both of our sides of the fence exponentially. There's, as a video filmer and as a video editor, you can make any situation look negative or positive. And we don't really enjoy the negative stuff. It might be a viral video, but we don't want to portray an event as something that it's not. But our main goal, at least my main goal, and this is what I keep, this is what I always tell my guys, is we're there to show the world what it's like to be at that event, what it's like to see a car do a wheelie, what the person in the driver's seat reacts like, some of the drama that goes on, some of the struggles, someone swapping their motor overnight so they can make the next round of the event, whatever that might be. That's why we love Drag Week. The struggles of Drag Week are crazy to see.
Yeah. Drag Week is just insane. I already said that once, but those guys are driving over 2,000 horsepower cars, 2,000 miles from track to track to track.
Yeah, each night is about, on Drag Week, each night is about 250 to 400 miles to drive after you've been working on your car and racing all day in the heat, to just do it again all over again the next day. And until you go on that event, you don't get it. Through the videos, it's impossible to show exactly what it's like. Some of these guys are literally rebuilding their motors in the parking lot of the drag strip to get to the next track before the racing's done the next day.
Because they have to get to every single
if you don't
stop on the way.
If you don't make a pass, and now with how competitive it is, if you don't make a solid pass each day at each track, you're disqualified or you're not competitive. The very first year, and what got me hooked on this, the overall event got me hooked on it, but there was a racer, Carl Scott, who's out of Oklahoma. We actually ran into him 2 weeks ago in a parking lot somewhere in the Midwest, getting ready to race. The first year he was in Bowling Green, made a pass, scattered the motor at the end of the track after an 850 pass. And this is already 600 miles into the trip. They've probably got, an average of 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. He scatters the motor at the end of the track at the end of the day, and he's like, all right, I'm out. I can't do this. There's, obviously I can't make it to the next track. But drag week's a huge family. Everyone's there to make sure everyone gets to the end of the week safely and makes a pass every day if they can. So some of our friends actually in Kansas City went to the Jags warehouse, picked up a set of pistons and rods and everything that they needed to rebuild the motor. And in a gravel parking lot, Bowling Green, Kentucky, they rebuilt the motor overnight. And I still remember the moment that they pulled into Indy. I think it was Indy, yeah. It was, Indiana. Let's see, which track was it? I think it was St. Louis. They pulled into the next track on drag week with like an hour to spare to make a pass. And everybody there was just like, what the heck? How did they pull this off? But those are the kind of stories that we love to tell. And that's what keeps us going. And making people famous, making these small garage builds famous to the world is insane.
Because otherwise we would have no way of ever seeing that.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't really realize what I was doing at the time, but these people get sponsorships everywhere they go. People know their car's name or their name. Every time I see Freight Train, the silver Trans Am that we feature quite a bit, he's telling me about like stopping by and getting free food from a restaurant because someone recognizes them, or getting an employee discount at Napa, or whatever it is. It's crazy. And we love those personalities. The most successful videos that we do are centered around the stories, centered around the people, and like following a car through its journey to win races or set records or just have fun. The first one we did was he went by the name of Parrish. He had a blue turbo pickup, and it was the moment when the world started realizing what sleepers were on the street. He had a regular cab. Actually, it was an extended cab at first. Silverado with, I think he had a blower with nitrous. It's like 600, 700 horsepower. And then he got this famous blue single cab pickup that he put a giant turbo on and was making 900 to 1,000 horsepower. Looking completely unsuspecting. Factory wheels, factory tires, pull up at a stoplight, talk some crap to a Mustang, get them all riled up, and then pull 10 cards on him in a quarter at the stoplight. And just leave him with his jaw dropped. It was the coolest thing. And now you see 200, 300 turbo pickups that look all like his.
So drag week's all pretty much domestic cars, and Texas 2K, for example, is largely more modern cars than in drag week. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, there's been, I think you can count on either one or two hands the number of imports that have showed up at drag week, and half of them have had domestic motors in them.
Okay. So how is that crossover with your audience? Because I feel like your audience you found it to be all street car guys, but do you find that the import fans and crowd and the modern guys, do they bump elbows with the old school domestic guys? And do you see what I mean? I feel like that those are two separate audiences.
Oh, for sure. And we've been pretty heavy on the domestic side for the first 2/3 of our journey, and TX2K's kind of pulled us back into that import crowd. Among a few other events, Streetcar Takeover has a lot of crazy imports that show up too. But if you remember, I didn't start growing my social media audience until TX2K 12, the third one that we shot. So we've got a pretty good mix of fans on Facebook. On YouTube, I think it's pretty heavily centered around domestics, but we're getting quite a bit of crossover there. I've always focused a lot on the domestic cars, and I love all kinds of cars. I'm not a fan of front-wheel drive after going to, what is the event? I went to it turned into a front-wheel drive event. There's a couple Supras, but it's an import drag race in Kansas City. And after seeing
IFO?
Yeah, Import Face Off. Awesome guys, by the way. Ran into them in Houston. They weren't in the greatest shape because their event was raining out, but they back then all the fast imports were front-wheel drive Hondas, and I realized very quickly that was what you were asking, if there were moments where I'm like, this isn't the right thing. Well, after seeing about 15 axles snap and about 300 misshifts and no wheelies, I just wasn't too excited about that. But import events have turned into a pretty cool crowd of racers, and not to talk crap on Hondas because there's some really fast Hondas out there. But you've got the Supras and all the rear-wheel drive mid-engine cars coming out, and I've really gained a lot of respect and interest for them recently. And we featured a lot more because I like any unique, any fast, any crazy car out there. It doesn't matter if it's domestic or import. And ironically enough, TX2K this year, I stopped and looked around and realized that I think 90% or maybe everyone but me in the crew was prominently an import fan that was shooting photos and video. So we had a lot more import footage than domestic footage this year.
So you said that you like all cars, imports, domestics, but does your audience feel the same way? When you post about import stuff, do the drag week guys get turned off by that and vice versa?
Oh, I'm sure they do. But with how many fans we have on Facebook and on YouTube, it doesn't matter what we post. There's going to be a ton of people that hate what we post. And I've eventually had to come to terms with that. Back in my early days, if I'd post something, I'd get a lot of negative feedback. I'd be like, okay, that was the wrong thing to post, or I might even take it down. But now, we're going to appeal to the majority of people regardless of what we post, because if I like it and if I think we need to put it up, people are going to like it because that's how I've built our audience.
Yeah. So, Kyle, what's your big, hairy, audacious goal for 1320 video? Like, what's the master plan?
Oh, when I left PayPal, everyone asked me if I was going to be going to like 3 times as many events, and that wasn't the goal of leaving my day job. I want to do what we do better, and I want to increase the quality, and I want to make the business perform as well as it can, so that I can make other people that have been so loyal to me, helping me with photos, videos, editing, merchandising, realize their dreams too, because our entire crew is people just like me with a passion for street cars and race cars, and I'd love to think that in a few years that I've got a full-time crew or 2 or even 3 that are going out and uncovering these stories to an even bigger audience. That's what I'd like to do, and I'd like to have more free time. But I know that with more free time, I'm just going to take it up with other things.
So what do you do about trying to create free time? Because you're so involved in every piece of media.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like the only way, like the bigger that you get, the more time that it's going to take. You're going to have to let go, or is that something that you struggle with?
It's obviously possible. You look at all these corporations out there, there's not someone that's not sleeping a single minute of their time. So I know it's possible, but when it's my baby and it's my... a lot of people see just me or hear just me in these videos, and so they picture me as the company, but they don't realize there's so many people behind the scenes. I'm slowly letting go of those pieces that I control so closely, and starting to hand out those responsibilities to other people that I trust. That was my big focus in the last year of my career at PayPal. Was I had a amazing manager that asked me where I wanted to be in the company in 2 to 3 years, and I said, I don't want to be here. And she instantly said, well, what can I do to make you perform better with your business? And I wasn't ready for that. But it made me think. And and I had told her for the 3 years that I'd known her that I did not want to manage people, because I had not so great experience the first time I tried it at PayPal. And so she asked me, what do you need to be more successful at 1320 video? And I said, well, I guess I need to manage people. I need to learn how to delegate, because that's one of my weakest points, is I like to make sure that everything's done the way I want it to be done. But you just simply can't do it when you grow this big.
At scale.
Yeah. And it's pretty stressful, especially when I've had so many people helping me for so long that, with 5 photographers and 4 events a month, you can't take them all on one event every month. So same with video, same with merchandise, but, they all have day jobs. So sometimes it's a good thing, but I just got to find a good balance and find people I trust to take over pieces of the business that can free up time for me to focus on what I need to and eventually relax and have a better work-life balance, as we call it.
Yeah. Well, that's really good insight, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting that your manager at PayPal came out of left field and said, hey, how do I help you basically leave here?
Yep.
And
yep. Well, she already knew my passion. She already knew where I was going. So I think
Sure.
she kind of expected it. But, she also recognized talent, and that's how we grew into a team that was so high performing. So
That's awesome.
they were dedicated to keeping me around and utilizing my skills as long as they could. Pretty grateful for that. That work-life balance I mentioned is pretty important. That was eBay's values are pretty strongly focused on what they call work-life balance and making sure you don't spread yourself too thin. And I don't practice it as much as I should, but like my video editor, he's got a similar passion and will sit in front of a computer for 12 hours a day. But it's a reality check that we try and maintain to not kill ourselves when we're filming 30 events a year.
Right. So, Kyle, I want to jump into quick answer questions.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to kind of fire these things off at you.
Sure.
Tell us about a game-changing product that you use in your business that you've seen in the last year.
Game-changing product.
This could be even a algorithm change to Facebook. I mean, this could be anything that's changed that you've noticed in the last year that affects your business.
The biggest focus I've had over the past year, efficiency-wise, so that we could output more, spend more time doing other things, has been around getting videos out more effectively. And I found a lot of tools online to help with that. I discovered these through my job at PayPal, a lot of collaborative tools. And
can you name them?
Yeah. We use Trello is a huge one. That was actually introduced to me by one of my employees I managed at PayPal. It's called Trello, and it's an app that's stored in the cloud of checklists. So you can have like a list for your groceries, a list for videos you want to edit, a list for supplies you need for your trailer, a list of merchandise you need, things to do during the day, and you can share it with anybody. But you can also access it on any device. And then the other one, Google Drive. If you just go to drive.google.com, it's basically an online Microsoft Office, and it's crazy how you can build efficiency or communicate better, organize things better with those collaborative tools. They have an Excel spreadsheet tool. I think that's the one we use most often. So we have a list of like the events that we film, and under those events in the spreadsheet we have the videos that we're targeting for each of the events, who's going to do them, what their status is, notes about like make sure to put this in there. Here's this guy's email to ask questions. Here's a link to Dropbox is another great one. Here's a link to Dropbox where this other guy that was filming casually just happened to get this wheelie shot that we didn't get. But all those online collaborative tools have been such a huge help. Dropbox is huge. We probably store 10, 20, 30,000 files on there every year. And with so many people touching the content that we use, people making DVD covers off of it, posting on Facebook, selling photos to people, acquiring content to make a video that much better. That's a huge one.
That's really useful. Trello I've heard of. using Google Drive, as a collaborative tool is something that I'm not familiar with, but I'm definitely going to look into it now. Yeah. And Dropbox, of course.
Yep.
Use Dropbox on a daily basis.
I actually misspoke. Wunderlist is the list tool.
Oh, okay.
So Wunderlist is the one that has like multiple lists to keep track of, and then Trello we use. It's very similar, but in a different way. So when we edit a video, my editor uploads it to YouTube, and then I open up a Trello, what they call card, within a shared folder, and in that card I make a checklist of all the edits. So I put a timestamp and I say remove this caption. I put a timestamp and I say there's a missing transition, and then after I get done, he gets an alert. And then he goes in, makes the edits, and checks them off as they're getting done. Because before that, we were doing it over Facebook Messenger. And as I'm sending edits real time and sending one per line, he's saying, okay, did that, or asking a question about one as I'm sending him new edits, and they just get lost.
Yeah. So Trello is how you communicate back and forth with your editor.
Yep, exactly.
Killer. So that pretty much answers the rest of the quick answer questions. So,
right.
What about your favorite tool? Do you have a favorite tool?
Yes, I do. And if you ever meet,
lay it on me.
If you ever meet me, you'll see it. If we're at an event, from the point that we land at the hotel the first day to when we leave the hotel, you'll probably see the camera in my hand. A lot of people will run into me at the bar or out at a restaurant or something like, you look different for some reason. It's because I don't have a Sony camera attached to my hand. Our equipment is our scalpel, and I've invested a lot in the equipment to make sure that we do the content justice. But we've got 4 of the Sony HXR and X3 cameras. A lot of people like to know what we shoot with. They're like $3,000 high def, amazing in low light, and the right size and weight for running around the track all day. We've got a couple older models, the AX2000 models, and then we have 8 or 9 GoPro Hero 3s, and I'm just starting to invest in the Hero 4s, but at $500 a pop, it's hard to replace all those.
Yeah.
But that's definitely my favorite tool, is the one camera that I use.
So, what do you think the future of online media is going to be? You said it was it was MySpace in 2008, and then Facebook gained a bunch of traction, and obviously MySpace doesn't even exist anymore, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
For all useful purposes.
Yep.
But what's the future of online media going to be? Do you see, and are you anticipating any huge changes in the next couple of years?
Boy, I wish I knew what that was, because if I did, I would move to it. We've got a lot of eggs in the Facebook basket, the YouTube basket, and Instagram. And I haven't mentioned Instagram yet, but that one is a great marketing tool because it doesn't limit your audience like Facebook does. But I haven't seen any yet to date that have jumped out. I started setting up Google Plus until I started looking around at how people could use it and were being forced by Google to use it, and realized it just wasn't the right thing.
Yeah, that's funny because in 2013, or no, I think it was at the beginning. Yeah, it was at the beginning of 2014. There was a lot of buzz about Google Plus, and that just really never went anywhere.
Yeah, I've got a pretty instinct when it comes to social media, just because of how connected I am to it, and it just didn't feel right. And every time I tried using it, it didn't feel right. And then there was this email that YouTube sent us saying, in order to use your YouTube account, you have to link your Google Plus account. This is just like way too orchestrated. You can't force a new social platform. MySpace and Facebook didn't happen because people's hands were being forced, and so it was pretty obvious that one wasn't going to be big. But we're always looking for it. We're so involved with the racers, the fans, that we see what people are using, and Well, I hope that Facebook is the monster for years to come because we've grown so successful there. But, as evolution always takes over.
Yeah. So finally, Kyle, I'm sorry, go ahead.
One quick comment on the social media. Forums were the place to be before MySpace. And
right.
I love forums. I just hate how time intensive they are. The ability to post one post and reach everybody in one spot is crazy, but the ability to go to one message board and know who your audience is crazy. And it'd be cool to see a shift go back to those a little bit. There's some local niche, like this kind of car, this kind of group, that's huge, but it doesn't seem like there's much focus on message boards anymore, which is somewhat disappointing.
Yeah. It almost seems like Facebook groups could fill that void.
Yeah, they could. They're just not as organized and not as personable, I don't think. When you have 40 posts competing for top ranking, a lot of the stuff that you want to find gets hidden. Yeah. Message boards are laid out in a way that makes it easy to find what you need.
Yeah. So, hey, Kyle, I want to say thanks so much. I know that you're slammed.
Of course.
You're probably dancing between events. I really appreciate you taking time to kind of break it down for us.
Appreciate the opportunity. I love telling the story.
I've been really interested to find out what 1320 is about and like how it grew into what it is, because it's crazy looking at it now. The kind of audience, the size of audience that you have is mind blowing.
I had no idea I was building a brand.
Yeah.
Then I woke up in 2013 and realized that we had a huge brand. Now I have to figure out what to do with it.
Well, I'm going to stay tuned. I wish you nothing but the best. Tell me, how do we connect with you and your company?
Sure. You can get a hold of me at 1320video@gmail.com or Kyle at 1320video.com. Our Facebook page gets filled up with about 50 messages a day, so we don't usually have time to look at that. But you can always find our content on Facebook, our YouTube account, Instagram, all under 1320 video. And our website is up to date as well, 1320video.com.
Good luck in the future, and I'm a fan. I'll stay tuned.
All right.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast app. Tap the subscribe button. When you subscribe, you help us gain momentum and attract more high-level guests. Thanks for listening, and good luck.